This video will demonstrate how we're going to make our biodegradable planters for our school garden. We're going to do this using paper mache around a balloon. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to take our flour and salt and we need to make our paste. So we're going to add some water and just mix it around until it's a nice thin paste that we can use. I'm going to make sure that it's all mixed around really well and it's nice and thin. Ooh. Almost like a really thin, watery pancake mix. We want it to be nice and thin so that it's nice and flexible and works really well and doesn't have lumps that form in the paste itself. And of course we're using flour, water and salt because we want the planters to be completely biodegradable and good for the environment rather than having chemicals and things that might affect the way that our plants in our garden can grow. So now that that's all mixed, it's like a nice watery paste. Kind of like the same consistency that you get from PVA glue that we use for our craft at school normally. So now that we've got our paste made, we're going to pop that aside. And the next step is to get our balloon ready. So we're just using a normal balloon. I've already blown mine up. We want it to be about the size of your hand, a little bit bigger, so that it's big enough for the seed to grow without being too big that it's going to be too much space for the classroom while the seeds propagate. So the next thing we want to do is get our balloon upside down, put it onto our platter. We're going to sit a plastic cup on the bottom. We're just going to take a few pieces of tape and very carefully stick the balloon onto the cup, and this should help us to be able to work on a stable surface without the balloon rolling around and trying to get away from us while we're paper macheing. This doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be enough to hold the balloon still. And then we can pop it on our plastic tray like this. And we're using a plastic tray so that we don't get mess everywhere. So the next thing we need is our scraps of paper, which I've cut into different sizes, and they're different colours, so our planters should look nice and pretty for the classroom while we wait for the seeds to grow. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a strip of paper and we're just going to dip it into our paste. Make sure it's nice and wet. And then we're going to use our fingers just to get the excess off. And starting on the top, we're just going to lay the paper on, smooth it, and then do the same with our next piece of paper. We're using different colours, so we should end up with a beautiful, colourful pot that will look lovely in the classroom window until they're ready to plant. We'll just keep doing that until we've got a nice layer. Overlapping the edges. We're going to bring the paper down to about here on the balloon, about halfway down, so that it ends up as a nice bowl. So now that we have a nice even coverage over the top of the balloon, we're going to make sure we smooth down any of the bumps, and we're going to just tidy up the edge so that it's a little bit even, not all winky wonky. And there we go. Now we're going to do a few more layers, so we're going to do 3 more layers over the top, and then we're going to leave it to dry. Okay, so as you can see, I've now completed my 3rd layer. Unfortunately, I had some technical issues and the camera stopped recording, but I'm just smoothing down the last few bits that need to be smoothed down. Now what we've got to do is make a base so that the planter can stand up on its own without rolling around. So what we're going to do is we're going to wet our paper, not our paste or our tape. And then we're going to try and roll it up a bit, just like that, and try and just stick it down as a lump. And then we're going to build that up a bit until we have a solid ring around the bottom. So now that we've got the base for our bottom, we're going to start building over the top of it, just to smooth it out a little bit so that it's a little bit sturdier. So we're going to get a decent sized bit. We're going to start at the top, smooth it over like we have been, but then we're going to rub it over and around like so. We're going to do this all the way around, just to make sure that we get that base nice and smooth, and then we can start working on our final layers. So now that we've finished paper macheing our 4th layer, we can go through and make sure we just smooth out any bits that are a little bit lifting, make sure that it's all evenly covered. And now we can leave it to dry.